And so I think it's about listening to each other. You know, I grew up a Catholic, and when people talk about modes of dress, well, I was taught by nuns, you know, and so when people sort of lecture Muslims or people of other faith about their behaviours or customs, I think we need to a bit more listening and a bit more respect for each other. I think that's the key to it. Respect, you know, respect the diversity, and you know, we are stronger together. But it's about unions listening and listening to, because sometimes, for example, when we've had people, by understanding the differences and listening to the workforce from different traditions, you know, it makes the union stronger in the end if it listens and acts. But the union's the first line of defence, and if a union's not about equality, then it's not a union in my view.
Well, I should declare interest here. My father worked for many decades in the Royal Mail, and he used to tell us stories when we were younger about pigs' heads, for example, being thrust at people in this country when they first came, and lots of discrimination, overt discrimination. And because of union action, that there was that defence at that time. And now it seems multiculturalism, although it's been fought for and we've had it, is now under attack, and unions once again are forming that line of defence. Would you say that's?
Well, I think that's true. I mean, the unions are not blameless. You know, the unions there's real examples of where trade unions have been, if you like, pandering at the very least, and sometimes even worse. And so, you know, we're not. Whereas, like any institution in society, you know, we've got to examine ourselves, and we're always looking to do that. And you know, people like your father, they would have recognised that, you know, that the union at the end of the day was prepared to fight for its members, but there's other people who've benefited from trade union activity, and it's a bit like, you know, maybe not recognise that the value of the trade union movement who've raised people up, and but you know, the unions themselves need to look at themselves sometimes. But generally speaking, you know, unions have been at the forefront on the quest for equality, and it's absolutely central to what we do.
So you've mentioned that you'd encourage people to join a union. If people are not members of a particular union, should they still come out on the streets when these strikes are called and the rallies are called?
Well, I suppose what the issue is how will I be affected by it? And if you're an ordinary working person, then you're going to be affected in some way. Sometimes it may not be explicit. You know, it may take some time, whether it's just the local library closing, or we're seeing what's happening to the health service, we're seeing what's happening to disabled people. Now, everybody at some point will be affected, you know, in terms of the attack on the general post-war settlement, which was, you know, which is under attack. And it's no accident that people like Cameron, at the very time that this is taking place, you know, they're almost starting to talk now about good and bad Muslims, you know. For those who remember the cowboy films, the good and bad Indian, there's a kind of, you know, an attempt to demonise and attempt to scapegoat a particular community. So support your union, do what you can, and engage in dialogue with people who are resisting the cuts.
Well, of course, many people would recognise the fact that Islamophobic discourse is very prevalent, and many viewers will be very, very familiar with that. Perhaps our viewers may not be so familiar with the historic context of how battles are won through mass action, and how changes in society come about as people come together. Many people take for granted the rights that we have, and it seems that it's not just Muslims coming under attack. People are arguing actually it's poor and less well off as a whole who are coming under attack, and this idea that this deficit has to be cut down in the way that Cameron is proposing, is reflected very much across the media. To say that there is an alternative itself, it seems, is a huge challenge.
Well, you know, we're here in London, and there's a club, there's a village, the so-called Westminster Village, and they're all of a particular ilk. A lot of the media commentators, not all, but you know, or rather a vast majority of them are, and they kind of settle very lazily into this consensus. And the fact of the matter is, all the evidence is, going back to the 1925 when Britain came off the gold standard, if you cut spending, you at the very least make things worse. You know, and we're seeing that in terms of the growth of the country. So we need to invest to get out of the problems that we face. And I'm not saying, you know, there's all sections of society are under generalised attack. But, you know, the famous quote from Gandhi is, first they ridicule you, then they attack you, and then you win. You know, it's an oft-used quote, but it's true. And you know, all these people, these clever clogs, as I call them, a bit of it, is that these people think they know what's right, and it's a fact of the matter is, you know, the things that we've been engaged in, if we fight, we've got the possibility of winning. And these cuts in the UK will affect, but it's not just in the UK; it's around the world. I mean, the Egyptian uprising took place one of the reasons why it took place was because of a rise in food prices. You know, and a lot of the resistance we're seeing and the call for change, it's not just about human rights. It's you know, basic human rights. It's also about the economic problems that people are facing.
So how would you very briefly, because we're drawing to a close, summarise what this economic alternative is? Because people are saying, well, we may agree with you, the sentiment is there, but we've got to be grown up. This is all naive talk that we need to just invest. It was irresponsible spending which causes the problems in the first place. How would you challenge that?
Well, there's an old song that says it's the same the whole world over. It's the rich what gets the pleasure and the poor what gets the blame. It's time for the poor to stand up and fight back.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. On that note, do join us same time next week.